Pickle, let's go to the hotline, and let's bring in the head coach of the 1-0 Terrell Tigers, the undefeated Terrell Tigers. We're joined by Coach Marvin Sedberry Jr. Coach, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are things in beautiful Terrell, Texas?
Man, we literally just walked off the field, so it's a great day. One day closer to game day.
Absolutely. And I speaking of game day, I want to go back to your last game day, which was last week. You guys opened the season with an emphatic 53-0 win over Wills Point. Last year at 1-9 didn't go the way you were hoping for in your first year there at Terrell. Walking off that field after that first game, how did it feel for you?
It felt really, really good. Our kids, they've needed to see success. There's been so much that's went on here just in the past really year, 2 years, and especially now with all this COVID and everything. We just needed something positive to happen, and we were fortunate enough and blessed enough to have something positive happen.
Let me ask you, because I know it's early and it's been a strange off season. You haven't had as much time with your kids as you've wanted.
Yes.
What did you learn about your kids on Friday night?
I learned that we're a little bit tougher than I thought. I knew we were athletic. We don't have much depth yet. We're developing it, but we don't have much yet. But what our kids taught me is that they'll get out there and compete. We have 10 sophomores on our varsity. We only have 13 seniors this year. But the kids really got out there and battled, and they were locked in. And I was really impressed at their ability to focus.
We're talking with Marvin Sedberry Jr., the head coach of the Terrell Tigers here on Texas Football Today. Get involved with the conversation at #TF Today. Coach, this is a program you took over at 1-9 last year. It feels like you guys are moving forward. What do you think maybe is the biggest difference between that team you inherited, that program you inherited last year, and the team you have right now?
I think the biggest difference is that we had somewhat of an off season with them, and so they got to learn my personality, and I've got to kind of learn our team's personality, because people don't realize the kids here in Terrell, really they've kind of been behind two off seasons, because the first one we had the coaching change, and I didn't get hired till May 1st was my official date of hire, and there was only 14 days of school left. So basically they didn't have an off season with me, and then this year we didn't come back after spring break due to COVID. And so, to me, one of the biggest things that we've been able to do is just try to instill kind of what I've always believed in, and that's poise, pride, class, and discipline. And kind of our hashtag that we're using is the Tiger Tough. And, that's one of the reasons I took the Terrell job, was that, Terrell kids were tough and athletic, and they've always been that, and they're still here. And so that's kind of, we were going to embrace that and build on that.
I love coaches who run the wing tee. I think the wing tee's great. I'm an unabashed wing tee stan. How do you? I always love talking with coaches about this, because the wing tee is not really predicated on making stars. It's a everybody does their small job and then we all win. But in a time where everybody likes highlight tapes and everybody watches Sports Center and things like that, how do you get kids to buy in on an inherently selfless scheme like the wing tee?
Well, first, let me say two things. The first thing, the wing tee is simply that it's a formation. People get caught up in that it's run oriented, it's ground and pound, but the wing tee really is you can kind of do what the defense allows you to do. Sometimes you can throw it, sometimes you can run it, and it's more versatile than people realize. But as far as how do you get kids buy in, I think the thing that you've got to sell the kids is being a team, because in the wing tee you can distribute the football. It can be a receiver, it can be one of your three backs, it can be your quarterback, and it's like, hey, you block for me, I'll block for you. And I think that's just one of those things that over time the kids start realizing, well, wait a minute, if I block for him, he'll block for me, and then it works. And when we saw that on display Friday night, it was kind of funny, because after the game, the kids were like, Coach, we saw it. And they was like, hey, they were talking about, hey, I threw a block for you. And, we motivate them with helmet stickers and things like that. But, football is still a tough old game. It's still a tough game. And I think it brings toughness to your team, both offensively and defensively.
You guys were, obviously you go out there and you pitch a shutout in week one. You guys have not allowed a point all season. I'm going to keep saying that until
Right.
It's not true. Let's just keep that going. What did you see from your defense this past week that has you encouraged?
High energy and running to the football. One thing that I thought we did wrong last year is we were a little bit overcomplicated defensively. We did too much. And so I told them this year what we were going to do is simplify it, get lined up correctly, and then run to the football. I think sometimes defensive guys can can overcomplicate things and try to run all these elaborate coverages and stunts and all of that. And I said, let's just get lined up soundly, play good sound football, and we know we have speed. Let's run to the football and make plays. And that's what they did this past weekend. I mean, and they played at a high level. And I got to go hats off to my defensive staff. They really did a good job of getting those things done.
You know, you mentioned that you guys are real young. A lot of sophomores and juniors that are getting key guys that key roles rather on your team. One of the guys I know that you're really excited about, though, is your senior in Shane Harris there on the defensive side. How critical is he to your team on a team that is so young to have that kind of senior leadership back there?
I mean, he's probably one of the most impactful players on our team because of not only just his playing ability, athleticism, but his personality. Shane is like a great kid. I always tell recruiters when they come in, I'd give him the keys to my house and wouldn't worry about what he was doing in there. Like there's some kids you'd be like, heck no, he couldn't come to my house, but no, he's one of those kids that he can trust him. He's team first, he'll do whatever you ask him to. I'm going to give you a quick example. Last year during the off season, one day I ran him up to me and I said, hey, give me 10 push-ups. And then he did. And I said, get back to your drill. So everybody's kind of looking like, what did Shane do? And then he goes back. And so at the end of practice, I said, at the end of workout, I said, hey, anybody know what Shane did? And everybody's like, what do you do? I said, nothing. He did exactly what I told him. And I used him as an example of how he didn't talk back. He did it the right way. And he just did what he was asked to do. And I said, Shane, next time, if you ever do get in trouble, I was like, those are your 10 already done, but it was just, he's that kind of leader.
Marvin Sedberry Jr., the head coach at Terrell, joining us here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. Coach, I do want to mention a little bit about the offseason because it was a strange one out there everywhere, but out there in Kaufman County. How did you go about in the offseason, knowing full well that, look, toe's going to meet leather and there's not going to be any excuses then? How did you go about staying connected with your guys and making sure that they're keeping engaged whenever you're not able to be in the same room as them?
Man, I probably called every head coach I had worked for or that I knew and asked what they were doing. But what we did is, we kind of did what everybody else did. We had a Google Classroom. We posted workouts, and then we kind of had what I call a team box, and the kids had to post their videos. And not only that, they had to post videos for their position coach to see, and then they had to post videos for the team to see. And it was kind of like a checklist. And every day we kind of take roll and we go down and say, okay, this kid got his workout, this kid didn't. And then we call them like, hey, football season's still coming. I promise, it's going to happen. And so, it was just one of those deals where our kids just kind of bought into it a little bit, and I mean, of course you had your stragglers, but I think over time when people realized, oh, they are still trying to work out, it got better and better and better over time.
Do we in the media, we in the Leering press, do we make too much of y'all's drop down to 4A? Because this is, you guys were at the 5A level. It was tough on y'all. We tend to think that I tend to look at it and say, all right, you know what, Terrell, moving down a little bit. Early returns are positive. Do we make too much of it?
Way too much of it. And the reason I say that is, most of the jobs that I've had, especially when you look at naming, we were one of the smallest 6As. Mm-hmm. I think that at the end of the day, there's good football played in Texas at every level. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're 6A, 5A, 4A. There's, to me, 3A. I mean, there's good football played everywhere. And it's about, being able to coach, getting your kids ready every Friday night. And one of the things that I still think that I think the media misses is that, yes, we did move down from 5A, but we were already one of the smallest schools in 5A. So now, yes, we're one of the larger schools in 4A, but there are teams that are established. They didn't go through coaching changes. Their kids know, hey, this is what we're going to do, and there's expectations. And so you still have to build it no matter what classification you are. And so I just think that, sometimes people overlook that. I mean, there's 4A teams that'll beat some 5A, 6A teams. And there's 6A teams that, dominate. And, I just think at every level there's teams that can beat to play up. And, I mean, we see that all the time.
Friday night, 7:30 p.m. At R.E. St. John Memorial Stadium in Kilgore. It is going to be Terrell heading to Kilgore to take on the Bulldogs. I don't want to ask you to give away your game plan or anything, but tomorrow, when you're going up against Kilgore, what are you going to see across the field?
We're just hoping for a good ball game. We know I respect Kilgore to the max. Those guys, they look physical. I know they came on the short end of the stick last week against Carthage, but they will by far be one of the most athletic teams that we play. They're huge on the back end of the secondary. They're big up front. They're going to present us a bunch of problems. So right now we're just, like I told our kids, we're going to try to get better every day and every week. And Friday's our test night, and we're just going to hope to stay in the ball game and maybe have a chance to play good football at the end of the game.
He's Marvin Sedberry Jr. He's the head coach of the Terrell Tigers. Coach, really appreciate your time. Congratulations again on the big win last Friday, and go get them tomorrow.
Hey, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
There he goes, Marvin Sedberry Jr., the head coach of the Terrell Tigers.